Hello and welcome to Free Kupo Nuts, a weekly podcast where three gamers get together and talk about all sorts of things, but mostly Final Fantasy XIV. My name is Alden, and with me I have my very good friends Nombly and Adara. It has been 2 weeks since patch 4.3 has been released, and today we will be talking about our impressions, thoughts, and opinions on the content that has been released thus far.
Before we get started, I just want to throw a big ol' spoiler alert up. If you aren't caught up with the main scenario, we are going to be discussing core parts of the Stormblood story, both in the main scenario quests as well as in side quests like the new Beast Tribe. Proceed with caution.
All right. So, right out the gate, we're going to start with one of the few changes that they made, which are usually the most impactful. So, uh, checks and balances with job changes. A couple of things that I noticed that were not really changed too significantly were Ninja and Scholar. Something about hide and berry changes. I don't know. I didn't.
You can sprint and hide now for Ninja, although it really doesn't make that much of a difference, gonna be honest.
It was
Yeah.
funny because they said they were going to be making DD changes, and I don't know how being able to sprint while hidden increases your damage, but
Well,
apparently,
the big class changes this patch were for Dark Knight, Monk, Samurai, and Astro. They got the biggest changes. Now, for Dark Knight, I actually don't really have much of an opinion on this personally because I don't play Dark Knight. But based on the impressions that I've heard and received by like multiple people who are, in my social circle, as you will, the Dark Knight changes are good. Like a lot of things they've done are good. But from at least from a raid perspective, like one of my raid tanks, he mentioned that it's still not enough of what Dark Knight should do and could be doing. So,
yeah. The only other opinion that I've heard about the Dark Knight changes were from Jack, and he said that these changes are good for like dungeoning, but
mhm.
in terms of being a raid tank, it's pretty much non-impactful at all.
Yeah,
It's a
and that
little
kind
bit
of
more
sucks. Yeah.
potency, I guess, but in terms
Mhm.
of utility or, just finding your place as a tank, it doesn't help.
Right, and I'm pretty sure I heard the same thing from Kiki too, so I don't know. Anyways, moving
Yeah.
on, the other change was to Monk.
Uh-huh.
They Adar, well, I'll let you take it this way from here. They changed Brotherhood and Purification. So, what exactly did they change to Brotherhood that made it so much better, Adara?
Okay, so Brotherhood, what they did is it used to be if you had two monks in a party and you both used Brotherhood, only the original caster of Brotherhood got the passive effect, which is the chakra generation effect, and it doesn't stack. So if you gave out Brotherhood and you both did it, basically the second monk wasted Brotherhood.
Right, so it's a little worse than like, let's say Dragoon. You have two Dragoons, and they both put a battle litany. I mean, everyone gets the crit buff, super duper, but like that doesn't stack, and it might just extend it. But I know it works a little differently, like you mentioned with
Yeah.
Monk. But
So new Brotherhood, there's a secondary effect applied, and so now if two monks cast Brotherhood, like that secondary effect means that both monks are able to get that passive, the chakra regeneration.
mhm,
Yeah, the meditative brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
So that unbreaks Brotherhood.
Well, that's good. And I know that they changed purification. Well, not changed. They added the enmity dump, so to speak, for purification.
Yeah.
I know you spoke on this a little bit last week
Uh-huh.
when we talked about our, classes, and I have an opinion on this. You go ahead and tell me yours.
Purification's still not on my hotbar. Straight up. It's not worth it.
No, it's not.
Because, again, and I explained this last week, the damage potential versus the enmity cut,
hmm
I'm giving up a lot of potential burst damage for the sake of cutting my enmity. So I also haven't been doing a lot of raiding other than the new 24-man, which we'll talk about in a bit. It just isn't worth it to me. And it's on such a big cooldown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I do kind of agree that as far as like damage output goes, any monk with a a good sense of anything would just completely avoid doing it. But I think I was talking to I think it was Damon about this the other day. It is nice to have just to have the ability or the option for whatever reason you ripped aggro, diversion wasn't enough. Just things along those lines. It's nice to have in a situation where you absolutely need to dump your enmity.
Well, sure, but if you accidentally rip aggro and you don't have full chakras, you have to stop and pause and generate those chakras and then do your aggro dump, which can be several seconds. And depending on what that boss is doing, that could be the difference between you living and dying. So it's really no different than you not having it in the first place.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. But I think I even might have ended up saying too, it's like, you know what's worse than lowering your enmity or lowering your DPS off by a few couple of seconds to build up chakras? Being dead for like 30 GCDs or something along those
Yeah,
lines 'cause you died.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, no, I mean, I absolutely do get it. It seems like it's a nice thing to have. It's a nice, it's an okay change, but I feel like they should give monks something else because that was one thing I actually will say that I do like in Stormblood is that before it was always if the tanks don't have enmity, it's their fault. It's on them. Like we have no control over that whatsoever. Like it was entirely on the tanks. They sort of gave the enmity responsibility to us.
Completely on the DPS now, whether it be, diversion, lucid. Like it feels like the purification change is a proactive rather than a reactive type of ability. Like you see your aggro reaching like 80%. You hit it once and you're done for the rest of the fight. You're still losing a lot of damage, but I think that's the train of thought they were going for. It's not like an oh shit button. It's this is so I don't have to hit an oh shit button.
Right. Which sort of just to end on your point. No, I mean it's not entirely on the DPS to control their aggro. The tanks are still obviously responsible to some degree. They just gave the DPS a little bit more say so in how they control their enmity and this and that, especially given the fact that tanks have shirk now. So boking and shirking in tandem, it just works out so well, and it's very nice to have that sort of thing. Which leads me to the next big changes that they made this patch, which would be samurai. Now, I mean, there's not really much to say here besides they were like, oh no, monks, which were actually out DPSing samurais, but monks have utility now versus, Heaven's Word, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, well, samurai doesn't have utility besides their DPS, and that's supposed to be their quote unquote utility. Well, we're just going to give them a straight up potency buff, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
Although they changed Merciful Eyes to kind of work sort of like how Purification does, but not really. I mean, it's 20% versus 50. Is it actually a 50% enmity reduction for like Lucid and Purification?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, to any of you who don't know what Samurai's Merciful Eyes does, it needs to be triggered because you just got hit by something. And if you're in a raid situation, the only thing that'll hit you is either, I don't know, maybe an ad the tank didn't pick up, or an AoE that you stood in, or something, or just, just general raid-wide damage. Mind you, the cooldown reduction to this is 15 seconds, so you can pop it every 15 seconds. Yay, but I can't really imagine, Samurai being able to use this that frequently. So I don't know. It it seems like an odd change to me. And
Well,
again,
Third Eye and Merciful Eyes they're both OGCDs, right?
yeah, no, they are. But I'm saying it's the same thing with purification. It seems like an odd change. I think the developers just sort of looked at the way that each class works currently, and they're like, oh well, monk and samurai do not have an enmity reduction. How can we possibly give this to them? And that's how they did it.
For the monk thing, how would you feel if they added it to what's the forbidden chakra? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And gave it like like instead of like a 50%, they gave it like a 10%. Like every time you hit that, you get 10% reduction and do damage. Would that be too overpowered?
It might be. I feel like it will.
Yeah, you may have to reduce the damage in order for it to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other change that they made, or rather they increased the cast time for Malefic 1, 2, and 3 for Astros, which they didn't actually change the actual GCD. So you're casting the spell quickly, sort of like how you would cast an Asuna.
Yeah.
Which initially I was just like, what does this change do? This really doesn't do anything for Astros. I didn't really understand it until I was like, oh, I can actually clip card animations while also continuously attacking and doing all this other stuff. So that is actually kind of a nice change, I feel, for Astros who are, very keen on card management.
I
don't know,
actually played Astro yesterday for the first time in 2 weeks, and I did notice that speed change as well as the light speed changes, and it was really nice.
I love the light speed changes. It is absolutely. I don't know why the light speed, the way it was the way it was. And
Yeah.
I mean, for those of you who don't know, it was that your MP cost was reduced by 20%. So was your actual like damage output. So
Yeah.
while it made almost everything, including like aspected Helios, or even any of your attacks or the AoE gravity attack that Astro has, instantaneous, it almost made it not worth it, even though
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
I
I
mean,
think the intention of Lightspeed in its previous form was that was your healer, oh shit,
mhm,
because it allowed you to instant cast basically any of your heal skills, which is why it de-incentivized using this to spam DPS by giving that damage cut.
right.
Yeah, I think it was actually a DPS loss to use light speed and attack before,
It
Mm.
right?
was. No, it was, unless you were doing AoE, which only because it was an instant cast, and I mean, obviously, just like Holy, it would be such an MP drain to cast Gravity repeatedly. So to
Mhm.
kind of pair it with Light Speed before, 'cause since it was 20% reduced the MP cost, it made it almost like worth the DPS loss because you're casting it so much quicker than you ever could on a regular GCD.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
the light speed changes is nice, especially considering they also increased it from 20 to 50%. But
Mm.
it's nice. It's a very, very nice change, and I love it. In any case, we're gonna go ahead and just move on to the next part of things that were really introduced in patch 4.3, which was, of course, the new MSQ and the trial that was tied onto it as well. And so, starting off, we did we go to the Dome and Enclave initially, or where did we start off in?
We went back to Kugane and then from there to the Dome Enclave.
Right, because we were checking up on Suyu and Gosetsu,
Yeah.
and oh, that was a cute little cutscene where Gosetsu was being fed by Suyu. That was, it was adorable. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting patch in that you truly get to see how time and the injuries from the Doman Castle raid have taken their toll on Gusatsu, who's been this protector figure and been this like rock for the Doman resistance for so long,
Hmm.
and now he just can't. He wants
Well,
to, but he can't.
right. Well, I think that we saw little snippets of it back when we first discovered Gosetsu and, the former Yatsuyu, now Suyu, the childlike, amnesia girl of evil. When Lord Heian just kind of said, "Hey, you should go guard Suyu," and he was like, "Yeah, okay." And Heian was like, what? You are not gonna fight me on this by not by just being told to be a guard dog?" Like, Heian immediately almost picked up on the change in his disposition almost immediately.
Yeah, he commented in 4.2 like, do
Mhm.
you feel like Gosatsu's being weird?
Right. And of course, we started seeing very slowly the memories coming back to Suyu.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the biggest trigger event, of course, being when you meet to ensure that everybody still agrees upon the terms of the prisoner exchange. And Asai has that little surprise for Suyu, which is their foster parents. And that I think that's the catalyst point that triggers her memories returning.
Right. Now,
Mhm.
I'll ask both of you because I have heard differing opinions on this, and I feel like we can all sort of agree that we wanted the best for Suyu, because we saw how,
Yeah.
even though she lost her memory, there's still some good in her, and I mean, I will always say that there's a testament to the writing where you almost feel bad for the villain. I mean, Yatsuyu, she had some horrible things happen to her, but all in all, like, there was that little moment where, like, you saw a little bit of humility in her, like, "Oh, man, all these horrible things happened to her. This is why who she is, who she was." But then she immediately turned around, she's like, "I will still burn you all." Like, we're like, "Okay, well, now you can die." Like, like, that
I
was that was
I
well
really
done.
I really like Yatsuyo through like all of the beginning of Stormblood up until now. Like she's probably one of my more favorite characters. Like her and I'm forgetting her name, but Redemption Waifu. Um,
Cordola?
Fordola, yeah. Her
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Fordola are probably
Redemption waifu?
Waifu.
that's who she is, man.
I mean,
Anyways,
yeah.
like yeah, they've probably been my two favorite characters in Stormblood, except like Nago's probably in there as well.
Right, no,
But
of course, but, I mean, we all wanted the best for Suyu, like, and of course, that moment where she like you said, the catalyst happens with the parents, and she goes out into the courtyard, and she's like, "I don't deserve this kindness," because she just feels truly just gut-wrenchingly awful about who she was, and, like, she's come to full terms with that, and she tries to commit suicide by, like, slashing her own neck, and oh, lo and behold, here comes loving mom and dad.
Yeah.
Oh, what were some of the awful things that they said to her? Like, "Oh, this was all your fault. We were doing so well in the capital. Maybe we could sell you again to fetch a price so that we can start living
Yeah.
luxury again."
I also think this is an interesting commentary on nature versus nurture as like as a concept, because Suyu, with like no memories and no context as to what has happened to her, is a super docile person. And I mean, but that could also just be because she had a brain injury. But
Possibly.
the environment upon which she was thrust, so being a foster child, then being married off, and then being sold to a pleasure house to repay her ex-husband's debts, and then ending up involved in the empire. That's a tough environment, and like she became a product of that environment and was ruthless because of all of the wrong that was done to her.
I mean, it makes sense of why she became what she was, but it almost got to the point where, like, there was no redemption for her, and she sort of
Yeah.
knew that. And of course, she just, you know what, she said, you know what, screw it. Like, I'm done. I'm done trying to be this nice person, and I'm just going to give in to the darkness and all that.
Yeah. When Asai saw that there was the potential for her to regain the memories, that's like the perfect time to have planted that relic.
Right, which, well, for those of you who have played the game, obviously you are familiar with the concept of primals and how they're summoned. They're, people pray to them, they're deities, but in the Doman, or yeah, I can call them Doman, yeah, for the Doman people, their primal equivalent is the Okami, which is obtained through physical objects,
Mm-hmm.
right? Isn't that how it works? So for Susano, his catalyst was like a sword and some other
Yeah.
treasures. Yeah,
Or
Asahi knew exactly what he was doing. He planted the seed. He let it, manifest, and he
yeah.
essentially used Yatsuyu for his own, twisted, his own twisted agenda, which eventually it resulted in her becoming. And I know that I watched the cutscene again to kind of hear the pronunciation, and I know they say it like "skyomi" like that, but I know a lot of people are pronouncing it like "sukuyomi."
Japanese is not a language I speak. Tsukiyomi is the closest I'm going to get.
Right.
I think it's interesting. Your fun little bit of trivia is Tsukiyomi is like the 5th time we've seen a primal summoned that takes the summoner as the vessel,
Yeah.
along with Shiva, Phoenix, King Thornton, and Alexander.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the catalyst of this is just her anguish and her anger
Yeah, her
combined.
suffering.
Yeah, her
Her
suffering.
suffering. Yeah.
So the
Which
position of the relic was just like the key piece. So she was already so full of this suffering and anguish that it just channeled into the relic she possessed.
wasn't it a mirror?
Yeah, I mean the mirror was the
Yeah.
relic.
No, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't sure what it was because I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the game has really nice moments where it's like, oh, this looks really good, or whatever. But I couldn't really tell what it was. I just thought it was like an old thing that she had held, not like I didn't know it was a mirror initially,
Hmm.
and I had to let that makes a little bit more sense given that she hated herself and she just looked at herself and it was reminded of all the suffering and that sort of like you said, it was the catalyst and the manifestation of the kami. So the point is that I did like how that sort of we kind of gleamed into that during the second phase of the actual fight with her, where you see all of the shadows, all of, like the dark parts of her heart sort of come and manifest, physically, like her parents, the Domans, the Garlean Empire, like kind of attacking her, and
Yeah.
then of course there's her fucking brother shows up, jealous, twisted, and that's I think all of our hearts broke when Xenos showed up, and then Gosetsu comes in and protects her, and we're all like, "No!" It was so, it was
Yeah.
gut wrenching.
Yeah, and the fact that you get this one last chance to see all of the people who have wronged her, and then at the end, after you defeat her, and she gets her one last exacting piece of revenge.
Against the brother. I love that.
Yeah,
I
was
absolutely love that.
so well done. Like it happened, and I was in Discord doing like that cutscene, and I actually clapped. I was like, yes,
It was good. It was
yeah,
so good. I mean, that entire time, like he played a good villain in that he played his part to where you were meant to hate him, and you did.
Oh yeah, I hated him so
We all
much.
hated him. We all hated him.
what a little wiener.
Well, or something. But no, like literally, he was the villain you were meant to hate. And in the end, like he tried to kill his sister and started like, beating like the shit out of her, kicking her and all this other stuff. And out of nowhere, like two katanas come out and she's like, you know what? when I went on this path, this journey, you were the first person I swore I was going to kill. And I was just like, yeah, again, clapping, like, cheering, yes!
Yeah, and I mean, like, his anger is because he thought this was a brilliant plan, and this was going to completely, like, throw the Warrior of Light off, and as well as the fact that, summoning an icon puts their whole peace mission
Right.
in jeopardy, right?
Right, which again which was a part of the plan all along, which no one was like, oh my god, he was never going to go through with it, or like, no shit, like, he's a twisted little monkey. Of course
That
he's
little
not going to go through
thing
with
at
it,
the
yeah.
end of that little thing at the end of 4.2 where he's like, go on, hit me, break this potential deal between the Garleans and the Domans. Like,
Yeah.
you do it. You can't touch me, right? And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm gonna kill you somehow. And I think the only thing that like satisfied me more than that was Suyu killing him instead. There's
Yeah.
actually this great post that was on Reddit like the day after where it was like Japanese girl catches mosquito between two chopsticks, and it's got the picture of Asahi up in the air with the blades through him. It's so
That,
good.
that is good. I love that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so it's just sort of moving on from that. Like I said, all of that was great. After that, I sort of kind of fell out because I was interested to see how that story ended. And then we sort of moved on to, yay, that's all settled and we still have a little work to do. Of course, you're not just going to end things there.
Well-
Gosetsu does the thing with his hair, but he essentially sort of like gave up his, like, I'm no longer a warrior. I'm just going to go on, live my life. And that's that, which it was a nice ending, but this was the actual end to the Doma story.
hmm
Which sort of brings me to my next point, where we get to deal with Maxima, who was still like, hey, I know Asahi was like kind of trying to screw one over on you guys, but I'm still, down for this prisoner exchange. Like, I hold no ill will to you guys. You still want to do this? And everyone was like, yeah, man, cool, that's awesome. Like,
well,
man.
I think it's more complicated than that. You're kind of, not to be like, hey, you're oversimplifying this, but it wasn't just that, but Maxima saw the threat and knew about Xenos.
Right. Right. I even forgot to mention the whole fact that, I mean, we all sort of kind of knew, but we don't know the full extent of it yet, which we sort of further along in the story that we've done, we actually find out that, yep, Xenos is fully alive, quote unquote, or whatever he is, or whoever he is, we have no idea. And that everything that had happened with Asahi becoming ambassador, plenipotentiary of, Garlemald, was all his doing. Like, he's like, I am pointing you this. Here's the plan. I'm going to teach you how to summon the kami using this mirror with Suyu. Yeah, everything that had happened with Asahi was entirely at his bidding, more or less, because as we all gleamed in 4.2, he was a true, Xenos devotee, right? And of course, the whole thing with Maxima led Alpha Node to sort of kind of go with him to Garlemald, essentially, to sort of like find out what was going on with Xenos, and because he was dead, he died. There's no coming back from that.
Right, but the thing here too is the fact that Xenos knew how to summon an icon is our first real confirmation that Xenos isn't Xenos anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know about confirmation, but
the Garleans don't summon primals.
You were right. Sorry,
the
that's right.
Asians have that knowledge.
That is correct. Yes, but whether or not the Asians were whispering in their ear, like they did with Gaius, right, or they actually are physically controlling his body, is why Alpha Node went with Maxima to Garlemald on that little airship, and then all that stuff happened where they were under attack by people who were wearing like the Garlean, uniforms and all that. Which I want to see how you guys feel about this, because how did you feel about the fact that there was a story instance where you got to actually play as Alpha Node?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
I wish they did it more.
I mean, it kind of made sense why everybody, laughs at Alpha Node. He's only got like Ruin 3 and Physic, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. Like,
the summoner who doesn't even use dots. Like, come on.
He's got Tribind.
He's got Tribind.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I forgot. Tribind.
He's got Tribind. Yeah. He's fine.
Yeah, he's totally cool. And of course, he can only limit break and ruin, and great. But I know, like, it was a nice thing they did, where like, hey, you're now playing as a story character. I thought that was kind of cool, and I didn't realize it was something that I wanted until they did it, where it was like, Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I understand that we're the hero, like, this is our story, but it's not just our story. There's, like, these other main characters besides us.
yeah.
Why do we only get to play as ourselves? I don't know, like I said, until they did that, I was like, "You know what? I would actually love if I could play as, Ishtola or well, maybe not Elise, but, or Alice or, something like that." Like, that would be so cool to sort of, like instead of just playing the entire story through our perspective. We could see different narrative, which obviously is why they did what they did by playing as another character in a different region than where you currently are in the story. I liked that.
Yeah, this is a narrative technique that they use it a lot in World of Warcraft,
Oh,
where
absolutely. I mean, this is
they'll
not a
they'll
new
pull you
concept.
back to no, I know, but like it's interesting that they're using it in this game now. Like Final Fantasy 14 has been a very adaptive game. It uses memes, for example, like pretty relative memes for like fate names and stuff like that. But it's interesting that they're looking at other games and seeing what works and bringing it into their game too.
Well, I don't know. Again, I'll just say that I kind of wish. I mean, this is something that I didn't know I wanted until they showed it to me. I was like, wow, why weren't we doing this the whole time? But in any case, so moving on to another thing that they've released in patch 4.3 was the continuation of the Four Lords quest line. Now, I initially was a little confused because because of what was going on and why we were doing what we're doing. But Adara, I know that you sort of looked into it and you have a little bit more insight as far as like what exactly happened in the Four Lords quest line. So I'm gonna let you take it away.
Sure. So when we return to Four Lords in this patch, the whole reason we go back to Hellsland in the first place to speak with Genbu is the Kojin chieftain is
Right.
like, hey, we haven't heard from Soroban in a while. Can you just make sure he's alive?
And okay,
So
yeah.
you go back to Hellsland, and we've seen that Soroban does possess the ability to speak to the other auspices. He can understand them much like we can, to great humorous effect in 4.2. So, and like Tataru is also like, I'm going back to deliver a treat to Soroban because he's working so hard. So you go back to Hellslid. And we are trying to figure out like how can we make Soroban strong enough to battle against Sairyu and Suzaku? Because if you haven't really dove into the whole purpose of the Four Lords, the four auspices, Genbu, Shiryu, Suzaku, and Byakuo, all have this duality about them. They have this peacefulness, and then they have this battle fever. And you need to help them quell their own battle fever so they can stay in balance and prepare for. The whole thing is the Four Lords are preparing for when the seals on Koryu's like ward breaks and he awakens, because he will mean the destruction of Yongsha. Like the last time that we fought him, it was ages and eras ago, and there was another warrior who possessed the echo who was monumental in actually ensuring that Koryu was contained. So they're looking for basically somebody to be that proxy. And we, as the Warriors of Light, are quite busy, so Soroban has become that proxy.
Hmm.
Our job is to make sure that Soroban is prepared as possible. So we end up going into the Swallow's Compass, which is this temple of geomancy, because it's got a mausoleum in it of Ganen, the founder of Far Eastern geomancy, and we are basically going to get a box that'll turn Soroban temporarily into an auspice, so he can understand the battle fever better. So when it comes time to fight, say Ryu and Suzaku, we're equipped.
Right. And then of course we have that whole instance where Sorbonne gets exposed to whatever geomancy magic that sort of aged him too much. And of course there was that little little quib where Tataru like peeks in and then she gets turned into a crone for like a minute or two.
Yeah. So
I
like
thought it was weird.
Tataru like gets impatient, runs to gaze inside, and then Soroban is overexposed,
Hmm.
which is what causes him to be already consumed by the Aramitama or the battle fever.
Right. And then we have to quell him and fighting alongside Genbu and Tataru both, which was a pretty cool fight all in all. But I think even normally you said this too. It was kind of like a silly fight. It wasn't supposed to be
Yeah,
super serious,
it
and
was a joke fight.
it
Like
was a joke fight.
Like, I don't mean joke in terms of like it's too easy. I mean, like, it was a joke in terms of like a lot of people were saying that Tataru is like the worst assisting NPC ever in combat. But a lot of people also don't consider the fact that, Tataru doesn't have the echo. Like, she can't see these abilities are gunning for her. Like, she chases after you with a spread mechanic, and you're like, Tataru, why are you like this? Get away from me, please stop, right?
You even see her NPC saying, "Why is he?" Well, I guess my tune was a he, so
Yeah.
she might have said something else like, "Why are they running away from me?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"It was, it
I'm
was
like,
supposed to be
go away,
funny.
stop.
It was
Like,
supposed to be funny."
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a fun fight. Like, I know a couple people have had trouble with it because they also don't understand the whole like tethered water drop mechanic, or it's just a lot of movement in that fight too. There's a lot of
Mhm.
ground goes,
Right.
but yeah, it's a cool little fight. It's one of those fights where I wish, like I've said in the past, where you could go back and redo certain story fights again, like the fight with Rabon in the tournament.
The thing about this whole Tataru fight, and people, I love how quickly people are to forget where it was quite literally. I know this was post ARR, and everything there was a blur, given how long it was. But the thing about that, though, is there was quite literally a quest line where you're helping Tataru sort of like try to find ways in which she can be helpful. Mining, or I forget what else she does. I think she does a little bit of fishing too, or something like that. But one part is she literally picks up, a grimoire and starts learning the arcane arts and summons a little
Mhm.
carbuncle. And in that story, a bunch of monsters appear, and the carbuncle runs away, and she's like like, she's just, like, devastated, like, "I was betrayed by my own pet," like, that was funny, and it happened again in the same fight, and I don't
Yeah.
know if anyone else picked up on that, but I did, like, I remember her little chat bubble saying, betrayed again." I was like, "Oh my god, I love this." It was a funny fight, it was supposed to be
Yeah.
funny, and not serious. People getting upset about how, like, "Oh my god, this is so frustrating, what am I supposed to do?" It's like, she literally comes to you, like, you're supposed to run away, so but
Yeah. And the ways in which they decided to tell the stories and give you insight into other ways to contribute to the fight that we're fighting were great in this
Mhm.
because you experience Alphanode and you understand his skill set better. You experience Tataru, like having to fight with Tataru, who doesn't have the ability to see what's happening.
Right.
And it helps give you sort of the context of not just like the skill sets you possess, but also how everybody fits into this greater puzzle. Because even at the end of the Emissary of the Dawn quest, where you're sitting at that table and you experience Alphanode, and they're like, okay, well, what do we do next? And Thancred's like, well, I'm just going to do my ninja thing and stealth in from the Alamegan side.
Mhm.
And you and Alice are both like, well, let's help. But you
Right.
can't because
Yeah.
that's not, even if you ninja mained, Thancred has,
That background, I guess
yeah,
you would say.
exactly. That's exactly what he does. And like, that's why he's a part of the team. So, yes, like Tataru might not have battle prowess, but she's still very important.
Right.
Yeah.
But and I feel like the whole Four Lords quest chain sort of raises the question, and it kind of just kind of breaks my perspective of what I initially thought. I actually thought that one of the Four Lords was the one that was like the worst, that was being like held. Like Byakko, he was still okay, but he still had, like you said, he has the fever, the battle fever, or whatever you pronounced or worded it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Koryu was like this mega god, or whatever you want to call him. I thought he actually was one of the four lords, and I actually initially
Mhm.
thought it was Seiryu inside that, and
Mhm.
not or no, it wasn't Suzaku. But the point is that that still leaves us three more boss fights.
Yeah. My guess is Soroban's probably going to fight one of them. And we're going to fight the other, which eliminates what I think you're thinking of, which is like, are we going to end up with 4.6?
Yeah. And if we do fight them, well, because I feel like we're still going to be involved. It's not just going to be just Soroban. Like we're going to be involved somehow, but it will
Mhm.
still leave it to him because he's obviously getting the training. It would be interesting to sort of have like us involved, and like maybe like a solo instance, kind of like how we fought Soroban with Tataru. I mean, not like in that
Mhm.
context, but like if they did an actual, instance fight with Koryu, with Soroban involved, and all that other stuff, I would be satisfied with that alone. You know what I mean? Like
I
that would
mean,
that would that would satisfy me.
If we do have, if one of them is taken by the NPC and one of them by us, I really don't know which one I'd rather fight, because Siryu is an awesome dragon, and I have these wonderful memories of him using 100 Fists in Final Fantasy XI and just gibbing the entire alliance immediately. And then there's Suzaku, who's this giant red bird, which is amazing because it would also use chain spell and then give the entire alliance with Aga 3s.
Right.
So I don't even know which one I'd rather fight more, because they're both awesome.
Well, I guess the only thing we can do at this point now is speculate and wait. There's really not much we can do at this point besides just, wishful thinking and staying as hopeful as we possibly can. So, hey, that is that. Moving along to the next bit of content that was released in patch 4.3, we have the continuation of the Return to Ivalice raid. First released back in 4.1, where we went to the lost city of Rabanastra, or however you pronounce it, I don't care. We have the Ritorana Lighthouse. Now, I know I wasn't the only one excited for this. I know Adara was too. She was the hyped, and I've played 12, so I immediately, upon the first boss with Famfrit, with the boss battle music, I was like, I was just so, I was so happy. I was just like, yes. Well, I don't know. What about you, Nombly? What was your first impressions on at least the first boss fight for that?
I mean, the first boss fight, it's pretty good. It doesn't blow me away, but it's all right. I don't have a lot to say about it.
Did you or did you not eat the Tide Pods?
Oh God.
I'm all tanked, so no, but I did get washed fairly well several times.
Oh, we all did. Well, I know there wasn't a lot to the actual that particular boss. Hey, he's a water boss, great. And there was a lot of swirling, whirlpools flying around, like kind of taking away at your health. And of course, he would spin his jug around and slam it on the or not or kind of just pour it out and sweep everyone in that direction away. I still liked the fight as far as an introductory boss battle goes.
Yeah,
Or just boss
definitely.
battles in general. That one was a good one for me. I liked that one.
Yeah.
What about the second boss fight, which I don't know the actual lore behind it, but I just kind of chalked it up to this is 12's version of Ifrit. Because it's what it seemed like to me. He was beastly and he was fire. Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, but that was my initial impression. And to this day, unless someone else says otherwise, that is my impression of that's what Ifrit was. That's 12's equivalent to Ifrit.
I mean, again, I don't know the 12 lore. I thought it was a really interesting fight. It was also very easy to understand the mechanics of that fight for me.
Yeah, especially on a first pull, there were a lot of mechanics that wouldn't oh, you mess this up, it's a wipe, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
It was a fight where you could learn as you went along.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't this raid's Hashmal. I watched other people kind of struggle with that fight, and I get it. But I also like really difficult fights, especially as a melee. I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment, and I found that fight was probably the easiest of the four.
Yeah, I can kind of agree to that. It was the first two were definitely the easiest of the of the four. Now, before we move on to the third boss, and even though I know that boss has a lot of opinions, at least initial opinions for sure, I want to ask you guys about how you felt about how the dungeon actually looked. Or I know it's called a 24-man raid, but I personally call it a 24-man dungeon. It's glorified. I'm sorry, it doesn't feel like a raid to me. Or maybe my just definition of raid is skewed, but point is what did you actually think of Raid Around a Lighthouse?
I thought it was really pretty. It's definitely got the Final Fantasy XII vibe to it.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
It's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I loved Raid Around a Lighthouse probably a little bit more than Rabanastra just for aesthetic reasons alone, and the boss fights too. But again, we can delve into that later. Moving on to obviously the third boss fight, Construct 7.
Fight. Best raid fight.
Best raid fight.
24-man ever. Best Emmy Award goes to Construct 7. Good fight.
So, Nombly, you know how you have Stockholm Syndrome with Guardian?
Mm-hmm.
I have Stockholm Syndrome with Construct 7.
But see,
Okay.
that implies that Construct 7 is a bad boss fight. It's not.
It's not a bad boss fight. I love. There's this meme that goes around where it's like people calculating substat weights in order to optimize their DPS. Construct 7 fucks them up because they can't do simple math.
What's 2 + 4? You're like,
Yeah.
It's like the pigeon meme, and it's got like a number 1, and it's like, is this a prime number?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that is funny.
Yeah.
And even though, like, I know that, which of course a lot of people don't read the flavor text, where you see like little snippets of interactable text you can read throughout the dungeon. It straight up tells you what the prime numbers are, people.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know your prime numbers, and that's fine. I mean, I can't really say you're not expected to know them, but I feel like you are. But it doesn't matter. Point is that
It helped
the
me
game
brush up on
tells
them recently.
Yeah. I honestly did not remember the prime numbers until I read that. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's these. And I was like, okay. And then of course Construct 7 is match your vitality to a prime number. I was like, either way, I loved Construct 7, and it's not just because his little dance. I mean, I know everyone loves his little dance. I love it too, but I mean, it was such a great boss fight all in all. Like, I loved it through and through. It was an amazing boss fight. Which
Before we
leads
get to
me
the
to
last boss, how did you feel about unlocking the lighthouse?
So I was actually one of the fortunate few to not have to deal with the Chocobo Meteors of Death, even though I did unlock it pretty much on release. Like, patch came up, boop, I'm in. Like, I'm not sure if I went straight for the 24-man, but regardless, I had like 3 or 2 other people there with me, so I was lucky that I didn't have to deal with like a million other chocobos. I didn't particularly care for the actual dialogue and quests leading up to Ritterana Lighthouse.
I
I
think
skipped
right
some
now
of it.
the NPC most hated that is a good guy is Ramsa right now. Everybody hates him. He's
Yeah,
like the worst
and
character.
it kind of shows to a testament of the fact that I have no idea why you all hate him so much. I'm just like, I have been skipping so much of this. I don't know where the hate's coming from, and frankly, I don't care enough to find out. So, well, what about you, Adar? Did you have any issues with the Chocobo Meteors?
So I didn't get to unlock Ritterana Lighthouse until later on in the day, the first day the patch was released, which is about when everybody was unlocking it. So I had Chocobo Meteor hell.
Oh no.
It was fucking meteors everywhere. Kiki had to come and save me. Like, it was
Aw.
bad.
See, what I
Yeah.
did for Chocobo Meteor was I ran in, spawned my Chocobos, and then ran away. And it was like, all right, if someone's gonna pull my Chocobos, it's their problem now. They'll complete the quest for me.
Mhm. Which, again, I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily have that sort of foresight to kind of do that. But I mean, you sort of know what chocobos are yours because it also has little icons above their heads, which I think even
Well, their names are red.
well, that too. Well, people don't really know or fully understand the color difference in names, like with enmity, which I think honestly I didn't know either until Eureka. Like, is it red? We have credit, but like I said, so I had an easier time with it. I think even Larizor, even when he posted his like day one like impressions and all that other stuff, he's like, "Which chocobos are mine?" Which of course everyone had the same problem with. He's like, he even said in his video, "Oh, like look, they have the little markers above their heads. Like, are you people blind? Do you not see that?" Well, I guess if you have like 50 other chocobos around you, yeah, you might be kind of blind. Uh, but yeah, so for the final boss, it's
Yeah,
YA.
I call him Matt, but
Or something. Yeah, it's something along those lines. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Point is that he was one of the mega bosses, or the mega boss that had
the
like
Mega Boss. Yeah, took
12
like 3
million
hours to
health.
get.
Yeah, like he has an impossible amount of health. And even people playing 14, they were so cute. You're like, why does he have so much health and he's not dying? I'm like, because it's he is a Matt. Like, it's who he is. Like, it's what he does. Which I did like how they implemented that. You know.
He put all his points into Vitality. No,
Mm.
okay.
Or something. I don't know, but
Sneaky little D&D reference.
which of
One
course
or two.
right over my head. Sorry, but no, like I mean, while I do feel like it was the easier of the 2 fights for the 3rd and 4th boss, yeah, it was just easier. It was like magnetic mechanics. Stand behind him, don't be in front of him as he's charging. Like it was easy stuff to figure out. Yeah, it was a nice boss through and through. Of course, you killed his, was it the heart of or soul or something like that? What was that like little yellow orb on his neck that like was like essentially dropping down to like 40%? What was that
Heart
called?
of something. I don't know.
Something or other. Yeah. So and then of course
All I know
after
is
you,
shoot the weak spot when it appears.
Yeah.
right, and I did like how it was voice acted. That was a nice little added effect. And beyond that, I loved the victory fanfare upon defeating the boss. And I was like, they did the thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Like I said, we'll see what they do with the next coming 24 man in patch 4.5. They've done tactics, they've done 12. What's left? Revenant wings. I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, for this particular
Yeah,
24 man, I was
little
above and beyond.
little tidbit after you finish the raid. If you go back to Construct Seven's room, he's actually in there dancing.
Yeah. It's great.
Hmm.
Love little Easter eggs like that, or things that they just leave you to like find on your own, because no one in their right mind would be like, I'm gonna go back and just walk through this dungeon casually. Like, who does that? No, I'm done with my dungeon, get my loot and scoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So alrighty. Anyway, so one of the next things that they introduced, not really much to discuss here, with us being week 2, was the Dome and Enclave,
Yeah.
which yay, it was, it was a cute little like custom delivery things of sorts, kind of. We're helping rebuild the Enclave. Yay. And everyone was like, hey, these Allegan silver pieces go for like 500 gil each or something. I'm just gonna hand them all over, which a lot of
Yeah.
people have done. And I mean, based on the flavor text, it wasn't the clear intent. So a lot of people don't
Yeah. I feel like
realize that.
they weren't prepared for people to do something like that. I think they were expecting it to be like the cobalt ingots or like
Or
gold
something, yeah,
logs and stuff like that.
or
Instead, you're like,
something.
here, have my Allegan silver pieces at 120% markup.
Right, and that essentially gives us like the automatic like quota being 20K, and a lot of people don't realize that since that wasn't the intent, that you need to like repeatedly interact with the donation box to get like all the cutscenes, because you're supposed to have like a cutscene at like 5K, 10K, and then when you're done, or something along those lines, whatever. So it was nice, it was cute. I'm getting into it. The story's nice. I'm enjoying the little side fun, like, hey, we're actually a part of this. And yeah, it's always nice to see like progression and things being built from nothing into something. So I'm interested to see how it further progresses. So I guess for now the only thing we'll have to say is we'll keep looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I don't want to talk too in depth on, because I know we said beware of spoilers, but the Namazu Beast Tribe story, that is a daily thing. For those of you who, again, may not be as well progressed as some of us, myself included, considering I did it the day the patch was released,
Hmm.
and I did it the following hours later, where it was still considered Monday, so or Tuesday, whatever. Point is that
After reset.
some people are a little further along than others. So again, for the sake of spoilers, I'm not gonna. We shouldn't discuss too much about this, because it is a very cute little quest line
Yeah.
where I'm not gonna lie. Based on what was mentioned in the live letter, it seemed kind of like boring. Like, we're helping them throw a festival. I'm like, okay, that's great, whatever. Like, I didn't really care about
That's
the
just
story
the
too much.
surface, though.
No, I know. I know that now. But then, oh, lo and behold, you're helping them throw a festival so that they don't go, fucking extinct. I was like, and they show you images. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
um, it was terrifying. And I was just like, oh my God, I need to save all of them now. Please let me help you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they motivate. I felt so motivated after doing that. And it was interesting how we all kind of were speculating how they were going to implement the fact that it was supposed to be a crafting and gathering peace tribe. Like, you could be on either or, and depending on what class you pick it up on, is what it depends on the quests that you actually do for that quest.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I thought it
I'm
was all
pretty
crafting.
sure. No, it's either or. Because
Okay.
there have been
Well
like
then.
multiple like Reddit posts of like, oh, if you're doing, I guess there was a miscommunication with a quest called Overcommitment as a gatherer.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can pick up these quests, these daily quests as a gatherer, and the objectives are different depending on whether or not you're a crafter or gatherer. I'm assuming. I haven't personally done it. I might actually go try that today, and I'll
Yeah,
let
I
you
might too.
know. So, but yeah, like I said, it's nice, and I think a lot of other people too have felt like a more affinity to these beast tribes, to this particular beast tribe, now that we're actually like,
Affinity?
shut up. You know,
Because they have fins.
Speaking of crafting in 4.3.
custom delivery waifus. Who doesn't love her? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I want to rank her. I want to rank up so I can change her outfit because it is ugly. I hate her outfit so much. I'm just like, I need to get you some clothes. I need to just dress you. Please let me put something nice on you.
I don't really craft in this game, so this isn't something I've had a chance to poke around at. But Nombly, have you done much with custom delivery waifu?
I mean, I've done her the week of release, and I did her this week, and she gives some pretty nice yellow scripts, so I'm happy with it.
There's not really much to do with custom delivery waifu, besides make her shit and then be done with it. But I do know that there was a lot of crafting implemented in this patch, which I think we were actually expecting more to be introduced, given the the pattern of like them releasing the Moogle Beast Tribe in 3.3 and giving us Ironworks crafted gear, which was blue.
Yeah.
But obviously this one's a little bit different. So, and while I'm still trying to catch my crafters up to gear, I'm actually still using the Ironworks blue right side pentamelded. I need to get
Tisk.
Shush. Well, Nomley, as our resident crafter, what are your thoughts and opinions on what there was to offer for, let's call it what it is. This was a crafting patch, more or like through and through.
Well, in terms of items being made, it was a crafter's patch. Like it wasn't 350. Like it wasn't a battlecraft crafting quest, if that makes sense. Like we got new CP items, which was awesome. The new cap is 493, which adds a lot more wiggle room for macros.
Well, no, when I say a crafting patch, I mean it's like a patch for crafters. Obviously, with every raid tier, there's going to be new crafted gear for the battle classes, but this was a patch that was pandered specifically to, I should say, crafting and gathering, because gathering also got the 340 gear as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think that the new gear, like at first glance, it's kind of ugly, but if you dye it the right way, like the crafting set specifically, I haven't messed with the gathering stuff yet because I haven't felt the need to. But the new crafting gear, if you dye it the right way, it's got this pretty embroidery on the arms, and it's kind of billowy, so it looks really comfortable to craft in. My only major complaint about it is that when you kneel down to craft, at least on here, your back foot sticks out the bottom, like it clips through the skirt, I guess.
Yeah, well, welcome to 14, where clipping is, you see a clip here, a clip here, a clip there. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, well, since this was, like I said, the crafting patch, what things did you actually like that they did besides, hey, new gear, better gear for you guys, yay?
Specifically, what I like the most about what they give us in this patch was the new CP accessories. We've been floating, 290s since 4.0.
You are so right. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's been awesome to finally replace those. The biggest problem is if you weren't sufficiently prepared with materia. The Control +7 materias are ridiculously expensive now. They're very sparse on the market board.
Right.
They cost a lot of money, and they're a 5% overmeld on 5th meld slot. So, like, when you think about it, like a 5% chance to meld, and at least on Siren, like, the Control +7 materials are going anywhere from like 150k to 200k a piece. So you need like 200 of these things, right?
Yeah, no thank you.
It's ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the new set has put us in a position where craftsmanship is a non-issue. The new tools put you way over anything you need. So you can stack control and get HQ off of NQ materials fairly frequently.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll end by saying this, that I feel like, given by what you just said, like I just immediately thought like, oh God, like we're above and beyond where we need to be. I'm like, oh, what does that mean when 4.4 comes out? Like, I need to prepare because I can feel the storm coming. You know what I mean? Like they gave us gear that's like, oh, you're totally fine with crafting literally anything now. It's like I know what that means. I know exactly what you're going to be doing. I know it's coming. Like we all know it.
I
So
mean, it's fairly easy to predict that, when 4.4 comes around, we're going to be getting high level 380 crafted gear, at least in my opinion.
maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. Or maybe 350 blue gear. But the point is that just
I don't mean crafted gear, I mean like battle gear.
oh well.
High level 380 battle gear.
Well, yeah, but it won't require. It doesn't matter. Whatever. So, okay. So, sort of end off on this topic, we do have some small but obviously impactful quality of life changes that was introduced in patch 4.3. The first one would be they changed the glamour dresser up a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean they made it good. It is no
Let me know.
longer the. I will quote Adara here. It is no longer the
Glamour
glamour
toilet.
toilet. It is no longer the glamour toilet. And a lot of people, that was a huge complaint about a lot of people like, I can't retrieve it. It's like it gave you an actual warning that it's no longer going to be usable. Like you did this to yourself, which they removed that, meaning you can actually remove items from the glamour dresser, not the toilet. From the glamour dresser, you can remove items you already like relinquished. You can actually, if it's in the glamour dresser, you can actually click on the item that's in there and apply it to whatever you're currently wearing. Meaning that you've already used the one glamour prism to put it in there, you can rinse and reuse like piece by piece. You don't have to use like a glamour plate, which is nice. I do like that they did it that way. You don't have to like set up a plate to apply the glamour to the dresser. You can just open the dresser, and then boop, I'm gonna glamour my headpiece right now. Bam, I'm done. I'm gone. I like that. That's
Yeah,
nice. That
convenient.
it is convenient. They also made it so that you can link certain glamour plates to gear sets, which is a step in the right direction. I think normally even you said that you can't do it like in a place that's not a city state, like out in the field, like you can't
I think it needs to be a sanctuary
or a
state
sanctuary.
where you can get like
Right.
rest experience, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, but like it is a step in the right direction, and I like that they're trying. Like they hear us. They're like, why can't we have multiple sets for, like I play all three tanks and I want all three of them to wear something different. What do I do? Like, and like I can't glamour each time I switch. Well, now you kind of can, but with like a slight rule against that. But maybe they might work around that later on and might fix that, or who knows what they'll do, or even give us even more glamour slots. Because I feel like at this point, people are going to be like, 10's not enough, which for certain people it's not. So I know there's going to be that's a very small group of people. What else? Oh, right. One other thing that I do kind of want to actually discuss real quick was why they haven't given us the ability to actually place glamour dressers in our houses yet. Like they put it in the squadron barracks, but like we're like really quickly, like why do you guys think that they haven't done that?
Code.
Yeah, I really can't think of a reason, honestly.
I know that the barracks and the inn are very quote unquote climate controlled.
Hmm.
Like they're always the same for every player, with the only variable being like your squadron doing random stuff and maybe different glamours. But like if you put it into a house, there's a myriad of other things that you have to consider. Like, are they
Yeah,
clipping this thing with other furniture? Is this going to cause, housing server stability issues?
right.
Like,
And I
I guess
think
they just
what it
want to
really
make sure that
just
it's working.
right, that's really what it boils down to is that they're just trying to work out all the kinks, making sure that if you put something to the glamour dresser, it just won't poof, and which causes even more problems for them because then they have to fix
Exactly.
that problem.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I think the best thing for all of us to do is that, hey, as long as it's working in the end, it might be a little, I mean, first of all, it's a game. I'm sorry it's not like as convenient as you would like it to be, but the fact is it's working and they wish to keep it that way. So, I guess just, sit tight and wait for them to really be able to like put it in, the our houses, whatever. I don't know. But another quality of life change, which is a little bit smaller, but for me, I really kind of enjoy it, especially with us being in the lavender beds. And I love Gridania's music. The fact that you can actually play the city states background music in residential areas. So, like if you're in the mist, you have Lamence's music playing in the background, and for Goblet, you have Old Da, and I like that. that it's like different music per housing. And of course, I'm so sorry. How could I possibly forget about Shirogane and playing the Kugane music?
Yeah, that one's fair.
And I like that. I mean, Adara, do you actually wait? Remind me, do you actually listen to the music or?
I have the music volume on like as low as you can go without it being completely silent, but I also play on my TV. I did know when it was the generic housing music before because that
Right.
song would get stuck in my head while I'd be dicking around in the housing area. Like,
Still
Hmm.
gets stuck in my head, which is why
yeah,
I think myself and plenty other people were like, and turn that off.
yeah. Honestly, I haven't picked up on what the new music is, but also usually have Spotify going.
Right. Well,
Yep.
I mean, if you know what the steady state music sounds like, Gridania, Lamensa, Ulta, that's all it is. There's no new music. It's just playing music relative to what era you're in. That's all
Hmm.
it is. So, it's a nice change, and I enjoy like little things like that. This one's not as little because it's a step in the direction that they promised us ages ago. Crossword link shells
Hmm.
for me is huge, especially since my raid group is almost primarily cross world. So it's kind of nice to have a means of using an in-game chat like a link shell instead of not just party. Obviously, we'd have to all be in the same party to do it. To just running something or hey, whatever. And you can also invite people to your party through the link shell, which
Hmm.
is nice. I like that. Which also raises the question of why you can't invite people on your friends list when they're cross world, but you can do it in the link shell. That actually still confuses me.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But I don't
I
know,
think
whatever.
this
There's
is
really not much
something.
else to kind of speak beyond that. I don't know if either of you have dicked around with crossword link shell at all, or
Oh, I don't
I
have
don't
friends, so.
know. Aw,
I'm going down the same path on that one. It's like I think the mileage varies from person to person. Like Dara and I probably have absolutely no use for cross-world link shells, so it doesn't affect us at all.
I guess it is. It does kind of like pander to a certain audience for sure. Like myself who raid and. But besides that, crossword link shells functions. I don't know what you can possibly get out of it besides just kind of expanding your audience or your group or your friends or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
The last thing that I kind of feel the need to mention was, and this is a huge thing because we've, like, a lot of people have been asking for it, and a lot of people have been like, "Why don't we have this?" It's a colorblind mode,
Hmm.
and it's not just a generic like, "Boop, there's a colorblind mode." It's now on because everyone's color blindness is a little bit
Varies.
different. Yeah, it varies from person to person, so you can tweak, you know, how you want like this color to change or this or that, and it's so nice. Like I almost cheered, even though I'm obviously not. Okay, jury's still out on whether or not I'm still colorblind or just blind in general. Uh,
Hmm.
I was so happy for like other people who do struggle with this issue playing a game
Hmm.
like this where they're like, I cannot see the AOE's because it's an orange color and I can't see that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like
Which
my
sorry.
FC leader back in Heaven's Word was like the blues, any shade of blue would like meld together to become the same color type of thing. So
Yeah.
doing Shiva specifically, she couldn't see like the blue marks on the floor for where to stand. So she had to like change her even like the blue of like your party list, your HP and all that would meld in with like the blue on the floor, and she would have to change her UI color to red every time we did Shiva,
Mm,
or else she couldn't see our HP. So like stuff like that is awesome. Make it more
Hmm.
accessible to more people. You have more friends to play with. It's a good idea.
absolutely. And I mean, I feel like it might raise the question of why wasn't this implemented sooner, but you know what? Who cares?
It's here
It's here
now.
now. There you go.
Exactly.
It's here now. And just to kind of share a funny story as well, I had a raid member who we were doing Neo X Death, and you had a purple or blue debuff. And the mechanic with that particular thing was you had to stand on the opposite color, and they were constantly messing it up. And I was like, dude, like, what's the problem? He's like, I'm like, with the colors, just go to the opposite one. And he's like, I have problems with the colors blue and purple. I'm like, but those are the colors. It was
Mm-hmm.
just so funny at the time. But in any case, I don't know. Yeah, that pretty much covers it for any sort of patch details that we had to
Hmm.
really cover or discuss. I really didn't feel like adding anything else besides the fact that we're still waiting for I guess, the in between patch where they introduce the real meat. In this case, it'd be Eureka or the continuation of Eureka,
Yeah.
Pugos. Pagos, whatever. And of course the new Deep
Pongo.
Dungeon, which is going to come out in maybe like 1 month's time.
I'll get here when it gets here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but of course everyone's just like, why can't it just all be released now? And it's like, that's the
No.
point. That's the point. They want you to keep playing, like they want you to come back. But again, I don't know, it's not for everyone. Either of you have anything to add before we end this episode?
Absolutely. It's time for a silly question.
Oh dear.
All right. So this one is for the Mikos, actually, and it's a question for both of you. Would you rather grow fluffy super ears or grow a tail that is as dexterous as, like, you know, it can lift things up, you can push buttons with it, that type of thing? Now, the fuzzy ears you'll be able to hear, you'll have like super hearing. I'll specify that. So,
Mm-hmm.
which would you prefer?
Adara, I'm gonna let you answer this one first because I have a response to this.
Oh boy.
Super fluffy ears or a strong tail in which you can do things with? What do you think?
Dexterous.
A dexterous tail. Yes.
I mean, as somebody who is naturally clumsy, I would assume that if I had a dexterous tail, it would not be that dexterous. I would just be knocking stuff over all the time. So I'm gonna go with ears.
Okay.
Now, the only reason I would opt out on the super long fluffy ears is I sort of stumbled upon a particular Tumblr post which sort of fetishized long ears on certain tunes. And I don't mean 14. I just meant like fictional, like fantasy characters and like what it meant to have long ears. And I was
Okay.
just like, and of course you said long ears. I was like, oh no, I immediately went to that spot. I was like, tail. I vote tail.
Tail.
What about you, Nomly? What would you pick?
I would go tail, personally.
Okay.
It's something that can push more buttons in games.
Oh my god.
Hold your coffee for you while you're playing.
Right.
Exactly.
Or like reach
Yeah.
for a snack, and kind of feed yourself with it while you have your two hands or something. I don't know, but that was a good question. I like that one. That was different.
All right. I am satisfied.
I'm glad you're satisfied. Well, that just about wraps it up for this week's show. If you liked this podcast and want to hear more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notified when we post a new episode. If there is anything you would like to hear us talk about, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.